Welcome to the Clock Tower. I'm Brandon, and today we're going over Camelot. On screen, we have the full list in front of you. This list really focuses in on that yellow package, as well as splashing in red to get additional burns here at the end. Now, this list is a bit greedy. We only do run 12 level zeros. However, there are a couple of profiles here that help make this work pretty effectively. First off, it's our Brainstormer for the set. This allows us to be able to access the waiting room through Brainstorm. It also allows us to look at the top card of our deck whenever we play a Knight of the Round Table character. For practical purposes, the yellow cards. Not every card in this set has that trait. Traits are a thing when looking at this set. However, basically every yellow card has a Knight of the Round Table trait. That allows us to be able to look at the top card of our deck. This really helps set up our Lion King burns that we start at level 2 right off the bat. Alongside that, this is one of the key pieces to bringing that on early. So allows us to bring that in early, allows us to be able to double check what our burn's going to be. It allows us to also just put markers into waiting room. Because we run the event, we have to marker a Knight of the Round Table character. This immediately puts that marker back into waiting room, so we can kind of respawn that event back into waiting room. A lot of utility all on this one card. Basically, once you have this card down on field, it's probably going to be on field for likely the rest of the game. Next up, we have Unwavering Loyalty, Gawain and the Lion King. This is our event bonder, so we can ditch a card from hand to salvage the event. It's also a pretty good climax out, to be able to just ditch a climax to get an event in hand to mill 4 from the top of our deck and grab a character off of that. So allows us really some utility here with the event bonder. That's all it does for the event bonder itself. This does pair with the 1/1 Adachi that we'll look at here in a little bit, but we can discard that as a part of the Adachi. Next up, we have this Tristan. This Tristan allows us, a lot like the Ruijerd from Mushoku Tensei, we can clock ourselves a card from hand in order to search for any character. That allows us some really good flexibility, some searching at 0 that doesn't require stock. So we can save our stock for a pretty stock-intensive mid to late game. Really fantastic profile for this deck because it can save us that stock early. Alongside that, we run one of the Climax Swapper. This allows us to not only swap our Climax, but to give a character, when a Climax is placed, the ability to stock kick a character. This helps us to avoid things such as Encore, or when characters sent to waiting room effects. This is very useful for getting rid of things like the level 0 Aqua from Hololive, getting rid of Rushia from Hololive, getting rid of Tutus that we might see in Quince 2. This is a very helpful ability that is attacked onto a card you want to play anyway to get the right climax into field. So throwing this down alongside the Lion King, giving the Lion King the ability to remove a character from play, really helpful. Our last level 0 is this green level 0. It's our drop search, as well as we can shuffle back characters in order to side attack for free. This is a really interesting piece. Also, again, kind of that same time frame alongside the Lion King at 2. Or if we're playing into standby, you can side into a standby target. You can shuffle back level 3s back into decks. You can burn for 3 from the Lion King, potentially, depending on your deck state. Really niche utilitarian use here. That's why we run it as a one of, because we also really have that selectivity with the Tristan. As we go into level 1, first off we have the 1/1 Adachi. This allows us to be able to, when it becomes reversed, we can send the character that reversed it if it's levels higher than your opponent's level. So if you brought it in through early play or brought it in through standby and it's higher than your opponent's level, you can send it to stock and pay out the stock from the bottom. This also has the ability that when you slam a climax, you can ditch the event bonder from hand and send an opponent's level 2 character or lower from the front row into waiting room. And then at the end of your turn, send this to waiting room. So if you're going to use it for the Adachi during that turn, you can get rid of a level 2 Anti-Change Bomb a level 3, and all of that on one turn. So you clear a lane, and you remove a very unhelpful target from field immediately, or from on that turn as well. So you could remove, essentially, you could clear 2 lanes with 1 card. That is very helpful going into a board-based meta. That is going to be a very useful card. It also has a soul trigger, so we can pick it up off choice or salvage, both of the climaxes that we're running. So we have access to this card. We also then run the Mordred Twin Drive as well. If it has a marker, it gets Twin Drive and the 2000 power. So without the marker, it's pretty vanilla. But timing-wise, you can pretty effectively get the event and this card at about the same time anyway. So you can pretty well make this work regardless. Yes, it is a vanilla without it, but it's also a costless character too. So you could, if you're just throwing for a costless character, that works. Turning this into a Twin Drive is really helpful. As we saw with Mushoku Tensei, Twin Drive is really useful. And a 1/0 that gets up to 7/5 with the marker and Twin Drive, very, very useful. Next up, we have the event itself. We do have to have a character with Lion King in name. Conveniently, our Brainstormer has Lion King in name. Either you need to have Saber in field, or you need to have the Brainstormer in field to be able to play the event. Again, the Brainstormer is like your number 1 target to get on field right away. Get that on field. When you do, put this underneath the character as a marker. It gives that character 1000 power for that turn. When you do that, look it up to 4 cards from the top of your deck, choose 1, add it to hand. Very much like that torch, except it is not a counter. Marker it, look at 4, choose 1. And it gives an extra 1000 power for that turn. So a little bit more offensive power. You can throw this underneath the Lion King level 3 to make it even more powerful. You can throw this under the Twin Driver that we already looked at. You can throw this under any Knight of the Round Table character. So again, you have to throw this under a yellow card. That means you can't throw it underneath the level 1 combo, but you can throw it underneath the Brainstormer and it sends itself to waiting room as like another way just to help push that card back through, or if you don't have another yellow card, that's also a valid target. So again, the Brainstormer, super important. Next up, we have this Benevere. This is our level 1 combo. If you have 2 or more other, it gets 1000 power. So baseline, it's 5k defensively, offensively, regardless. With the Climax combo, it gets an additional 2000 power and cigarettes on attack. So you're looking at, with the salvage, you're looking at 8000 power on attack, which is pretty respectable. Can't get the event, so 8000 is kind of the cap there. However, the cigarettes combo is very useful with that, and that combo also pairs with a level 3 as well. So you have the level 1 combo and the level 3 combo on the same Climax, which allows us to a little more flexibility with that. Again, cigarettes, pretty vanilla like in regards to like pretty generic on attack combo. The last level 1 is another Benevere, but it is tied in with that same Climax. It allows you to pay 2, clock yourself to get that Climax and place it on the Climax slot. So you can get this Climax into play already during your main phase. It's extra utility to be able to get that combo immediately, being able to essentially go and get your Climax for your endgame combo is really, really useful. The number of games that you might go through in a normal game where you just, I have my level 3, I have everything in place, but I don't have my Climax, this solves that problem immediately. I run it as a 1-of because you really only need to do that at 3. Like, having it at 1 is really nice and really important to help like sustain resources, but you're not paying to clocking yourself to try to get a resource or 2 here at level 1. You're trying to use that to close out the game. As we get to level 2, we have our back row assist. This is again, another part of the Lion King package. Because if you're level 2, you get the ability that you can pay to rest this card and the Brainstormer to choose the Lion King from hand and place it on any spot on stage. It also is a level 3 assist, so it gives level 3 2k power. Again, so your Lion Kings come down and all of a sudden it gets an additional 2k power. It's only to the characters in front, but 2k power to front is fantastic for the Lion King. It also has the ability that you can pay 1, rest 2 characters, this one and another character, to get the event from waiting room to hand. So if you're not getting the Lion King that turn, you can get the event back into hand to do a little bit more mill. You can also just the support to level 3s. Pretty essential card for the deck. You want Lion King down early. You'll run it. It is what it is. You run this card. Note that you can only do it the Lion King package at 2, so you can't try to stand by this in at 1 to bring in the Lion King. It have to be level 2 to do it. Very reminiscent of the Rushia combo from Hololive, to try to spam out the Rushia. I also then run 2 of the mill counter, so you just mill based off the number of characters you have for your opponent's deck when you play this card. Notably that it's not optional, it is a mandatory effect attached with it, but it is also a 3k counter. So you could potentially mill opponent's climaxes out of deck, as well as being able to essentially back your Lion Kings up an additional 3k power. If they're put in front of the level 3 assist, that's 16k power defensively at 2. So that's pretty decent power threshold to be able to continue to live another turn. As we get into level 3, this level 3 group is a bit heavy, but at the same time is also really useful for burns. So we have this Lion King we've talked about so much. If you have 2 or more other, it gets additional 1,000 power. So if you have the back row, additional 1,000 power. So base 10 plus 1 is 11, plus the 2 from the back row to bring this out early is 13. On attack, reveal the top card of your deck. If it is a character or the event, deal damage based off the card's level. Climaxes are for 0, level 0s are 0, but everything else is burn damage whenever it's revealed on attack. When you play this down, this is a Knight of the Round Table, so you can actually trigger the Brainstorm that's in the back row to top check your deck, so you actually know what you're going to trigger. Very reminiscent of the Yo burns from Sunshine. You're able to kind of adjust your game plan depending on what you reveal with that, so you're able to get this away and start swinging for that additional burns every turn once you have this down. It also has a climax combo, which is pretty crazy. When the choice climax is in your climax slot, you can heal 1. This is not on play, that is when the climax is played. So you could potentially recur this heal if you slam the climax multiple times. So if you get the climax to hand throughout the game, when this is down, you could stay at 2 and continue to heal with this. If you are able to tri-field this at 2, which is ridiculous, by the way, if you can do that, you could heal potentially 3 times. If you're able to then cancel that out and your opponent's not able to do anything, you could heal 3 times again. So you could continue to heal back down just by slamming climax to deal more damage. Like, you're rewarded for slamming climaxes with this deck. Next up, we have one of the early plays we run with this deck. If your opponent has a level 3, you can play this out early, which is pretty nice, so you're able to kind of respond to your opponent's early plays or standby targets. It does not have to have it in the front row, so if they stand by something out to the back row, you can play this down in the front row. During your turn, if you have the Lion King in the back row for the 2-1 Lion King, you get an additional 4,000 power. Realistically, you're going to have that down because you're running this package. You're going to have that. You get rewarded for having that on field for additional 4,000 power. So if you put Mordred in front of that 2-1, you're looking at 15,000 power without climax on offense. So this is what you want to use to board clear. This is what you want to use to also heal. It's also an early play that doesn't require the back row to be rested, so you could just throw this down alongside the Lion King, and now all of a sudden you have this massive board. I also run this Bedivere at 3. This is a 2 or less early play. It's a stock healer, and for each of your opponent's back row, it gets 1,000 power. Not great. I don't like that a part of it. So it could get up to 11k if your opponents have 2 cards in the back row. But your opponents kind of get to choose at that point what your power is. But it's a stock healer. This really kind of goes alongside the idea of you're trying to stay at 2, and is a little bit cheaper to play down for a 2-soul body alongside the Lion King, which at level 2, when you play down the 2-1 and then you play the Lion King, that's 3 stock right there. So you're consuming stock pretty heavily. This can try to help mitigate some of that. Last up at level 3, we do have our level 3 combo. Notably, there's 2 level 3s here that have combos. This one combos with, again, that level 1 climax. That at the end of this card's attack, you can pay 4, ditch 2. And if you do, burn 3 twice, and then send this to memory. So, technically, you could have multiple of these on field to do. That would require an insane amount of stock that you don't have to burn 3 twice. Realistically, you're only going to do about 1 of these as your endgame combo piece. Yes, I recognize I have 4 in this list. Most of that is color fixing, and additionally, their potential level 3 burns. This is also because it's essential enough that it really does help your game state. You could also slam this down at 3 and then just play the choice, heal up, because this also gives your front row, if it's in the front row, it gives all of your characters 1,500 power. So when it's played on field, it becomes of 11,500 power. It can bump up your Lion Kings even higher, so more power there, more potential there for it to continue to grow and build. Helps you win board, helps you close the game. Those are the 2 real big things that this deck card can do. It also plays into that consistent burns that you're trying to do throughout the game. So you can, level 2, start burning with the Lion King, continue to burn with the Lion King through in level 3, and when you use this Benevere down, you use trying to close out the game. So you're trying to essentially get 2 of the Lion King burns and this Benevere all in the same turn. So essentially you're trying to get 7 burns for 3 if your opponent has board. So you're trying to essentially swing for 3 7 times at the top, which is pretty deadly. Overall, I think this is a really interesting deck to play, and I think that this deck has a lot going for it. So with that in mind, you're going to see this deck. This is going to be really interesting because it's going to be a non-standby deck that can just stick a bunch of burns left and right. Weaknesses of this deck, that the Lion King itself doesn't have a way to save itself. So, for example, anti-change counter or anti-change or hard removal things do drastically affect the Lion King. Because you're able to then remove it from board and force them to then pay the additional stock to bring another one back on the field. However, because it's attached with the package in the back row, that can be relatively easy to just continue to recur that. But if you don't have a way to deal with the Lion King, you're in for some trouble. If you're able to deal with the Lion King, it just becomes a pretty aggressive burn deck, as opposed to an oppressive burn deck if you're not able to deal with the Lion King. With that in mind, getting up to 16,000 power is pretty insane, so be aware of that as you play into it. Be aware. It exists, it's pretty powerful, and I'm curious to see how this deck will perform as it continues to come out. So, thanks so much for watching. We're going to have gameplay of this on Thursday. Next week, we're going to have a clock talk, followed by an additional 5 cards, 5 minutes. Thanks so much for watching, and hope you have a good one.